Welcome, healthy friends, to the reality of health. Today we're talking about how to buy really good food less expensive than it normally would be. And if you'd like to cook, this is going to be your episode. If you don't like to cook, well, I don't know if I can help you. I'm going to do my best, but essentially what we're going to talk about is how to buy grass-fed or organic, or all these kind of terms you hear. Get the best quality food with the highest nutrient profile without spending as much money as you could. It will be more expensive than buying commercial type industrial farming foods, but there's no nutritional value in those. Very little. You get some macronutrients, but the quality is low. Mineral content, vitamin content, antioxidants, all the stuff people love to talk about. So I'm going to make this a fast one. I'm going to go through this quickly so it's not a really long episode because it doesn't need to be. All right. What you see is a picture of food that people made. They didn't buy it. You can do this yourself. It is not hard to make nutritious, quality, really good tasting food. There are methods. I'm going to tell you how to do this without spending a lot of money or time. So let me just quickly tell you the best way to make healthy food without a whole lot of effort is your oven. Yes, it's better than the slow cookers and all those kind of things. But I would say the fastest way is a pressure cooker, and it does hold the nutrients, but there's not a lot of browning. It doesn't create the same flavors. It makes things soft and cooks them, but the oven is the way to go. And your vessel that you use can actually help create good flavors. I'm not going to get into that today. I'm mostly going to teach you what food to buy. But braising, slow cooking in the oven doesn't take a lot of effort. You can make a ton of one-pot meals or just cook a chunk of meat, like a chicken or a roast. And it'll be juicy and flavorful and absolutely delicious. All right, let's get into it. If you don't have an Aldi near you, you might have a Trader Joe's. But essentially, companies like this, they actually source their meat locally. So since I live in Michigan, Aldi actually has grass-fed beef, and most of their beef that's not grass-fed is all locally raised, which means Michigan gets the money. They keep costs down by buying from farms local. And yes, you can get things like beef. One of the easiest ways to get the most nutritional value is beef. The prices are good. The types of cuts you can get are pretty good. Skirt steak, for example, is a mainstay in my house. Eat it all the time. Superior fat content. Cut it right against the grain. Oh, I'm telling you, it's so good, and I don't spend a lot of money. Great pricing on grass-fed hamburger. But you should utilize Trader Joe's and Aldi's for locally grown, really good sourced meats. Not the chicken. Definitely not the chicken. They use Tyson. They kind of have to. But for the beef, and I believe the pork as well, you could look into that. I'm pretty sure the pork is a good way to go. This is a pork roast. This is what you get, pulled pork and things like that from. Probably the best bang for the buck, if it's pasture-raised, has nearly the nutritional content of beef. And in some cases, if it's raised properly, can exceed beef. Not commercially raised pork, has to be pastured pork. It is very, very nutritious. The fat content in pork is extremely similar to ours. This is a way to feed the whole family for very little money. You can make a huge one of these and do it pulled pork, or you can cut it into slices and actually grill it. You can do thicker slices and put it in the oven. Many ways, but this right here is key. Give you an example. This is Boston butt, which is similar to what I just showed you. Notice, $66, Eric. Yeah, but it's 6 to 7 pounds. That's only $10 a pound. And in some cases where you live, that could be the same price as ground beef. And this, you can make many more things than with ground beef. And if it's pastured, like White Oak Pastures is here, it's healthier or has at least the same nutrient content. Absolutely amazing. You can smoke it and grill it and bake it and just whatever you like. That's amazing. I do this a lot. If you're talking beef, a secret is skirt steak or hanger steak. The reason I pick this over other cuts is the amount of fat content that's in it. Now, the grain will go a certain direction and you need to cut against that. But when you have fajitas in a restaurant or these kinds of things, this is what they use. Hanger and skirt are the same. Really high fat content, which is what you want. That's what gives you flavor and the texture and tons of nutrition. You don't just want lean protein. Lean protein is okay, but it's not the same thing as if getting the fat content from these animals. Fat is key. Usually when you get things like this, they're trimmed most of the fat. I would leave pretty much whatever's on there unless there's things you don't like, then take those off. But essentially, quick to make. You can do grill, you can slow cook it any way you want, and it is beefy goodness. I love it. That's my go-to. And of course, there's always ground beef. Check this out. So this is Heritage grass-fed beef, ground beef, and essentially you are at $85 for 8 pounds. So you're about $10 a pound, but the quality of the nutrition is what we want. There is so much more nutrition in this ground beef than any other regular ground beef you're going to buy that it's almost the same price as in some places. This is the way to go. I'm telling you. And again, like I said the other day, you can eat less. You don't need as much. You're getting much better nutrition. Obviously, mainstay in every household. One you wouldn't normally think of is brisket. Well, when you buy a whole brisket yourself and you cook it, it feeds a lot. So this is an example of Thousand Hills. So it's a pound and a half for $18. And it feeds a lot of you. Again, nothing bad in there. All nutrition, super healthy for $18. That's a dinner. And when you add it with whatever vegetables or whatever else you're going to add to that, that's a whole dinner for, let's say, $18 for 3 to 4 people in the meat and $4 or $5, $6 for pasta or whatever else you're adding to it. That's a good buy. And when you cook it properly, people pay a premium to have people make this for them. Texas is known for it. You can do it yourself. You put the seasonings on it, you put it in a slow cooker of some kind, done. You didn't do anything. You don't have to be a chef to make any of the things I'm talking about. Now think about this. You ever heard of a beef shank? It's basically a cross-section of the leg. And you think, well, I don't want all of that, type of cartilage and that kind of stuff. Well, guess what? This is what they use to make things like osso buco. You're going to slow roast it in some way or another, usually braising, and you can look up braising. This is one of the most delicious things you can eat, and look at the price. 2 pounds for $13, grass-fed organic. I'm telling you right now, and then the bone marrow makes everything taste even better. It's the most umptious food you can pretty much make. Cheap, easy to get. And if you don't go grass-fed and you want to get at your local store, they'll have it. Amazing. Another thing that I cook all the time. Oh my gosh, it's so good. It's so good. If beef's not your thing, or you want to change up, how about whole chickens? You can get a whole pasture-raised chicken for $19.75, and it's 2 pounds. You can go more than that if you want. My point is, when you buy that rotisserie chicken at the grocery store, it's 2-pounder, but it's horribly raised. It doesn't taste as good as it could, when all you have to do with this is open the package, and by the way, even butchers near you, or you can ask places like this to get rid of things you don't want in there. You basically put some spices on it and put it in a roasting pan and throw it in the oven. It's so simple, and it tastes way better, and the nutritional content is way higher. Why? I know it's convenience to just stop at the grocery store and get one of those rotisseries, but it doesn't taste like a home chicken, especially raised like this. Totally pastured. It's so much better, and it doesn't take a long time to make. The oven does all the work. This is the kind of chicken you want. This is how they raise pasture-raised chickens. They get to eat what they want to eat, and the nutritional content is so much higher. You're actually paying for nutrition. Whereas this is not. You don't want this situation. Packed in there, disease, all kinds of problems. That is not a good tasting chicken. And it's not healthy for you, and it's not healthy for them. Don't do that. Eggs are one of the best things you can eat if you want to eat well. This is what I eat almost exclusively. Vital Farms, organic, pasture-raised. If you buy eggs from either a farmer's market or anywhere else and it doesn't say organic and pasture-raised, don't eat it. Pasture-raised is the first thing. The second thing is organic. That means if for some reason in the winter they don't have enough feed, they will make sure they give them organic feed. That's what you want. These eggs are the most consistent, best price with the orangest, is that a word? Yolk. Best tasting I've had yet, and they're everywhere. That's my brand. And until I can find something better, I've had local. They're not as good. I'm just saying. So if you don't want just meat all the time, how about your veggies to add to your meat? Well, bang for your buck. If you go organic, raised, grown vegetables, then you want to stick into the squash family. This is what is going to give you the most nutrition, least harmful to the body. It's inexpensive. It's actually very easy to cook. Once you get the skin off of it and prep it, which doesn't take very long, you're slow roasting it in the oven, maybe with some onions and some other things. It's so easy. It's very, very easy and super high nutrient content compared to other vegetables. This should be a mainstay. You can add this to soups or as a side dish, anything like that. Absolutely fantastic. If you go to the farmer's market, this is where you can get really good deals. You want to look for things like the carrots and the onions, things that like eggplant and the other ones that are more nutritious, easy to make. Lettuces, I'm telling you right now, they're pretty much worthless in the diet. But Eric, there's so many antioxidants and nutrients. Yeah, there's not a lot. It's roughage. It's tough to digest. And there's a lot of anti-nutrients. Whereas things like root vegetables are a little bit better. Squash and pumpkin, like in that last photo there, pumpkins, your regular squash and eggplant, things like this. I mean, eggplant's not as great as some of these, but these are really nutrient dense if you're into vegetables. I'm not, but if I was, I would be eating more of these. They're super easy to make. And then, of course, as a base for things like stews and soups, or adding to slow cookers or pressure cookers, you're going to need stock. And if you buy your chickens and you cook them, you would take the carcass, put it in a clean water, add in your vegetable remnants from cooking. It's usually the stuff that you're not going to eat. And make your own stock. It's so easy. And it tastes better than anything you're going to buy in the store, bar none. Also, bone broth, you can do the same thing. That's the way to go. Good restaurants do this, and you can too. It's not hard. If you're going to make your own bread, it should always be real sourdough. I talked about it the other day, but learn how to make legit real sourdough. It's the only bread I recommend unless you are a bread person who knows how to make real bread from ancient grains. Otherwise, use an ancient grain, make your own sourdough, but you need one of these. And that is a stand mixer. You can get these used. You can buy them new. You can spend up to $1,000 on one of these things. Guarantee you're in a garage sale or a flea market or something. These things hardly ever die. Fantastic kitchen tool. I have 3 of these. But make your own bread. It will taste better, and you get to control the nutrients, and it's cheaper, actually. How is that possible? I can get bread for $2 a loaf. Yeah, it's not going to be this. This is bread heaven, okay? Lastly, I would say there's 150 million ways that you can save on buying food and cooking it yourself or making it yourself. These are just a few of them. I enjoy cooking. Many people don't. I think that what I brought you here was cuts of meat and things that you can buy that are less expensive and are easy to make. A million recipes out there. Learn how to use a pressure cooker. Those things are amazing. Instapot, for example. You can get your own ribs. Beef ribs are cheaper than usually the pork ribs, but you can put the ribs in the pressure cooker before you put them on the grill, and you have perfectly succulent ribs. And you didn't spend, all that money buying them. They're actually pretty affordable. But any of these cuts of meat, you can do all these cooking methods, and they turn out so good, and you barely did anything. My point of this is to give you good nutrition, grass-fed or organic or pasture-raised meat for high nutritional value for your health. Buying just regular meats and eggs and things like this in the store, they're not that healthy for you. There's a lot of problems. There's a lot of chemicals, pesticides, antibiotics, and all of that mess. Why not spend a little bit more, buy the cheaper cuts, make them appropriately, which they taste ridiculously good, and you spent slightly more money. You eat less because you have a lot of nutrition, and what do they say? Bob's your uncle? I just don't understand. It doesn't take a long time to make these. I can prep a braise in about 10 minutes, and it cooks in the oven for 2.5, 3 hours, and then I have meals for, 3 or 4 meals, and I spent $15. That's incredible. You'll go and buy a pizza for $15 if you're lucky, and it feeds 2 of you, and it's garbage. Well, anyway, thank you for listening. I hope this helped. And since I love this topic so much, if you have any questions on how to make this stuff or want a recipe or any of that kind of thing, hit me up in the comments, because this is a really fun topic, especially for all of you who like to cook. Thank you for listening. Appreciate all of you. Take care. Thank you.